Without love and belonging, there will always be suffering. Brene Brown. This is part of my memoir, Maha Unshackled. If you're just joining, you might want to start from the beginning. The first three chapters are already live: Introduction, Karmic Seed, and The Diplomat. Love. Every decision you make, every action, every choice, every word comes down to one thing: the desire to feel loved. People on their deathbed don't care about money or accomplishments. All that matters is love and the people around them. Your relationships define your wealth and well-being, but the most important relationship of all is the one you have with yourself. If you feel unworthy of love, you will attract people who make you feel unworthy. If you believe life is hard, that success is for other people, that money is scarce, those beliefs will shape your reality. The mind is powerful, and whether you realize it or not, it's running old programs that were installed when you were too young to question them. Your subconscious mind runs on autopilot. It's the part of you that drives home without thinking, ties your shoes without effort. It controls most of your daily action. And if you don't reprogram your limiting beliefs buried deep within, you will keep reliving the same patterns, struggling in the same ways, wondering why nothing changes. But here's the good news: you can change the program through mindfulness, repetition, and rewiring the thought patterns. You can replace old beliefs with new ones that empower you instead of limit you. For me, it was survival. I had no support system, no money, no safety net. I had to figure out how to be happy, how to live a meaningful life on my own. I dove deep into yoga, neuroscience, and personal development, desperate for ways to break free from the subconscious patterns holding me back. I studied the stories of women who had overcome impossible odds: Oprah, J.K. Rowling, Sarah Blakely, Michelle Obama. They all had one thing in common: they learned how to use their minds to create the lives that they wanted. Jim Quick once said, "You are this close to everything you wanted in your life." And he pointed to his temples. It's all in your mind. And once you understand that, everything changes. The darkest times. How do you like your eggs? My grandmother, my mother's mother, asked me. I was caught by surprise. You mean I get to choose how I want my eggs? Yes, of course, my dear, she responded. Do you want them scrambled or do you like them eye eggs? Translation, in Yemen, that's called sunny side up. Do you like them well done or a little juicy? I responded, eye eggs, and a little juicy, please. I like to poke the yellow part of the eggs and love how it spills over the white part. Whoa, thanks, Grandma. My mother never asks me what I want. I grin from cheek to cheek. I know, my dear. I don't know why your mother makes everything so difficult. I was never like that. She's so tough on you girls, with all the yelling and the beating. It doesn't need to be this way, she says with a soft voice as she places the pan on the stove. Life was tough in those 2 years, but we were resilient kids, and we found ways to keep our spirits up. Even though Maysoon and I were stuck in Yemen, our hearts were still in the United States. It was the early 80s and Madonna was on fire. One day, we somehow got our hands on her Ciao Italia Live from Italy concert on a video cassette tape. For kids today, that's how we used to watch movies. Big clunky tapes that you had to rewind when they finished. We played that tape so much it started to wear out. When the black reel inside got damaged, we'd carefully tape it back together with scotch tape and keep watching. We must have played that concert 3 to 5 times a day, every day. We need a third member for our band, I announced one afternoon, rewinding the tape for the what felt like the 100th time. Our cousin, who didn't speak a word of English, hesitated. What do I do? She asked in Arabic. Just dance and sing, Maysoon said, throwing an arm around her. You don't need to understand the words, just follow our moves. Our cousin looked unsure. If our moms find out, they won't, I cut in. It's our little secret. Even my grandmother got involved. She had an old sewing machine with a foot pedal, and she secretly helped us make our Madonna costumes. Don't tell your mother, she whispered, guiding the fabric under the needle. She'll make a big fuss. I watched her work, amazed at how steady her hands were. Sometimes she would let me push the foot pedal back and forth with my tiny foot, though all I could manage was a simple straight stitch. She handled the tricky parts, zippers, sleeve, all the details I couldn't figure out. When our outfits were finally ready, poofy tutu skirts, knee-high neon leg warmers, black lace gloves, and giant bow headbands, we felt unstoppable. Okay, from the top, I called out, standing in front of the mirror. We memorized every single song from that concert, copying Madonna's moves exactly. Even our cousin, who didn't understand a single lyric, knew all the words by heart. Like a virgin, we sang at the top of our lungs, spinning around in our tiny bedroom. What does that even mean? Mason asked mid-spin. I shrugged. No idea, but we sound amazing. Of course, our mother did not approve. Madonna wasn't a good role model, and Muslim girls had no business singing her songs. One afternoon, just as we were about to start, Material Girl, the door burst open. What is this nonsense? My mom shouted. We froze. She grabbed the closest thing, a slipper, a wooden spoon, maybe a rolled up newspaper, and threw it at us. Turn that filth off! Maysoon ducked as usual. I took a step back, froze in fear as usual. Our cousin stood there watching the madness. You should be cooking, cleaning, doing something useful, my mother yelled. Not acting like that harlot Madonna. The second she left, we looked at each other, burst into giggles. Where do we go now? I whispered. The roof, Maysoon suggested. The storage room, our cousin added. We grabbed our boombox, our makeshift microphone, and our costumes and snuck off to find a new stage. No matter how many times we got caught, we just kept going. We were unstoppable, hiding in new places and performing with the kind of passion and dedication you'd think we had a real concert to prepare for. I was in the third grade at that time. Our school in Yemen was planning a field trip, but only students from the fourth grade and up were allowed to go. The younger kids, kindergarten through third grade, were considered too young. As soon as I heard the news, I marched straight into the principal's office and demanded to be allowed on the trip. Why did you say we were too young to go? I asked, standing my ground in the crowded office. You're letting my sister Maysoon go just because she's in the fourth grade, but not me? The room went silent. The vice president and a few other teachers turned to watch. The principal crouched down to my level, a small smile on his face. Yes, third grade is too young, he said. But you are the only one in the third grade that can come with me. I'll take care of you and you can ride in my car, if your parents allow it. Really? I asked, eyes wide open. He nodded. Yes, but you have to bring me a written note from your parents saying it's okay. Why? Because you're so cute and I just can't say no to you. The second I got home, I told my parents, barely able to contain my excitement, but they didn't believe me. He was just being nice, they said. No, he meant it, I yelled, refusing to let it go. Come with me tomorrow. Talk to him yourself. The next morning, I dragged my father to school and into the principal's office. The two men laughed about how determined I was, but the principal kept his word. He promised my father he'd take good care of me and that another female teacher would ride with us in his car. So you're a VIP, my dad teased. You get to ride with the principal. And that's exactly what happened. The whole school was amused. The kids, the teacher, everyone. But I didn't care. I got to go on the field trip, and I had a blast. I always remember that day, how fearless I was, even at such a young age. Even with all the restrictions, the rules, and the oppression that life threw at me, I somehow always found a way to push through. The 2 years in Yemen came to an end, and my father had a new diplomatic assignment. This time he had to move to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and live there for 4 years. I was entering the fifth grade at that time. I had just bought a beautiful dress that I was so excited to wear to my first day at school in Riyadh. It was this baby blue loose swing midi dress that fell right below my knees and came with a white waist belt. It had dolman cap sleeves and was made out of some cotton fabric. The night before my first day at school, I had made sure to iron the dress and hung it right outside of my closet so I could keep an eye on it from my bed to make sure it doesn't get wrinkled so I look crisp and make a good first impression. My father would always tell us that we were representing our country on these foreign diplomatic assignments, and so we must always be on our best behavior and show a good example of people from Yemen. I barely slept during that night, excited and nervous for my first day at school in this new mysterious country. The language in Saudi Arabia was Arabic, just like in Yemen, but I quickly noticed their dialect was different. As a kid who just wanted to fit in, I listened carefully and tried to mimic it, hoping it would help me make friends in this new school. I was used to being the new kid, used to navigating unfamiliar places, and so far I thought things were going well. It was my first day, and by the fifth period, just one class before the school day ended, I was feeling more comfortable. Then a sharp knock on the classroom door interrupted everything. A teacher swung it open and called out my full name for the entire room to hear. I froze for a second before standing up. Come with me, she said. I wasn't worried. I hadn't done anything wrong. I followed her down the hallway to the principal's office. When we arrived, I noticed several other teachers were already inside. The moment I stepped in, she shut the door behind me and locked it. This is the girl I told you about, she said to the principal. The principal bent down to my eye level, her face serious. You're in big trouble, she said. Your dress is extremely inappropriate. You've broken the school dress code. You need to call your parents to pick you up immediately. I stared at her, confused. I looked down at my dress. It covered my entire body, dropped well below my knees, covered my upper arms, and wasn't tight or transparent. What was wrong with it? I did all I was told and called my mother, telling her she had to come pick me up. I wasn't allowed to return to the class. Instead, I sat in the office, waiting in silence while the rest of the school day carried on. By the time my mother arrived, the final bell had already rung. She was just as puzzled as I was. "What's wrong with your dress?" she asked, inspecting it. When we got home, my father arrived from work, and we told him what had happened. We had been prepared for Saudi Arabia's strict culture before moving here. We knew how religious and conservative it was. We knew women weren't allowed to drive, couldn't walk outside without a male chaperone, and had to be covered in a black abaya and veil. But a short dress? My mother had always told us a dress was considered short if it felt above the knees. Mine wasn't short, it was a midi dress. But according to the school, my dress had to fall all the way to my ankles. I didn't own a dress like that. So the next day, instead of going to school, I went shopping for one that was appropriate for a 10-year-old girl to wear. In the 1990s, Saudi law was strict, especially for women. They weren't allowed to drive a car, and they couldn't leave the house without a male guardian. If a woman was caught walking alone in public, the mutawwi', the religious police, could stop and even arrest her. Times have changed. Women in Saudi Arabia can now drive and move more freely, but back then the country was still decades behind the rest of the world in women's rights. During the weekdays, my sister and I went to school, and my father left for the embassy. My mother, however, was left completely alone. She wasn't allowed to step outside, not even to take a walk down the street without a male chaperone. She didn't know how to drive, but even if she did, it wouldn't have mattered. She had nowhere to go and no way to get there. She had no friends, no visitors. This was before satellite TV and the internet, before WhatsApp calls or online communities. She was, for all intents purposes, imprisoned in her own home. Day after day, she sat alone, waiting for us to come back home. One morning, my cousin was visiting, and as soon as we woke up, she stretched her arms and said, "Let's go play outside." Maysoon and I exchanged a look. We knew what was coming. "We can't," I said, looking down. She frowned. "Why not? It's a beautiful day." "We have housework," Maysoon said with a sigh. She tilted her head, confused. "Housework? Just make your bed real quick and we can go." I shook my head. "It's not just making the bed. We have real housework. We have to vacuum the whole house," Maysoon added, "and wipe down the windows, clean the kitchen, sweep the floors." My cousin's jaw dropped. "That's not housework. That's a full-time job." I sighed again. "Yeah, by the time we finish, it'll be dark outside and we're not allowed to play after sunset." She huffed, placing her hand on her hips. "That's ridiculous. Let's do it together. If we can all clean, we'll be done faster. Then we can go outside." For a moment, I let myself believe it was possible. The three of us jumped up and started cleaning like our lives depended on it. We vacuumed every room, wiped every window, scrubbed every surface, moving as fast as we could. But no matter how hard we worked, there was always more to do. The minutes slipped by. The sun rose higher in the sky, and at one point, my cousin wiped sweat from her forehead. "How much more?" I hesitated. "A lot." By late afternoon, she finally had enough. She marched up to my mother, standing as tall as her little body would allow. "Auntie," she pleaded, Can they please play just this once? I'm visiting from another country. They can finish the cleaning tomorrow. My mother barely looked up. No, my cousin's face fell. But they're lazy, ungrateful kids, my mother snapped. They need to learn discipline. I watched my cousin's shoulders slump. She turned back to us, defeated. We didn't even have to say anything. We just picked up the vacuum and kept going. My mother became even more violent with us, not only physically but emotionally. I will never forget when she would throw me on the ground as I curl up in a fetal position, and she steps on my low back and says, I defecated you out of my body like a piece of shit so I can squish you like one too. That's all that you are. All that you are worth. You are a piece of shit. I created you and I can destroy you. Pull that electrical cord from behind the TV and bring it to me, my mother commanded me. She would make me unplug it and hand it to her so she can whip me with it. I even remember one time we bought a new TV and she was admiring the cords that came with it. Ah, this is a longer one, nice for whipping. I can't wait to use it on you. Cracking up, she laughed. I laughed too. Mom has a new gear. It was a funny joke that is also tragically true. She would even brag about her choices of punishment, saying things like, I'm very mindful because whipping doesn't cause any permanent damage. It's not like breaking bones. I always avoid making any marks on your faces or any other visible areas. I'm such a good mom. I care about my daughters, even when they deserve to be punished. Going on even further to explain how ungrateful we are because her mother was not as gentle with her, and how we don't even know what other cruel mothers do to their kids. That she's much more evolved now and has learned from her past punishment mistakes. Remember, Maha, she would say, remember when you were 5 years old and throwing a tantrum, how I covered your mouth with my hand so hard that your jaw cracked? I was young and foolish back then, but I don't do that anymore, right? Because I don't want you to have to go to the hospital and get medical care. The dread and worry during the ride back home from school weighed heavily on my chest. I would never know what type of chaos to expect when I opened the front door. Would she be having a nervous breakdown and crying on the floor? Sometimes I could hear her wallowing all the way from the driveway. Or would she be in a rage and start whipping us, throwing things at us? Things like natural gas stovetop burners or lit charcoal, shoes with heels, forks and knives. Or on a good day, she had a long list of chores waiting for us to do. These are not your regular chores that parents give their kids to teach them how to take care of themselves and be responsible. This was more of child labor. She would make us manually wash the carpet and the entire house with a hand brush and a bucket full of carpet shampoo, or carry large Persian rugs to the backyard so we could wash and rinse them manually out there. We were also to wipe and clean the windows in the entire house, vacuum all 5 bedrooms, living room, and dining room. Those chores were to be completed every single day after school. Do dishes for the entire household. I'm not talking about wash your dish after dinner. We had to scrub the stove top, the oven, wipe clean all the kitchen appliances, and wash up pots and pans after every family meal. 3 times a day, every single day. We were not allowed to watch TV or play with friends because we had to do housework. The fights that she would have with my father would also instill and later imprint terror within me. At night, while they were in their raging fights, I would hear the breaking, the sobbing, the shouting, and I would be so scared and go wake up my sister who was sound asleep. Hey, wake up. They're fighting again. This time it's really bad. She would just shush me and tell me to go back to sleep. One day, my mother was crying so hard that she had some sort of seizure where she couldn't move her hands anymore. I walked into her bedroom. The lights were turned off. She was almost hyperventilating and curled up in a corner. Her arms were in an X shape across her chest. Her fingers curled in. She was shaking, yet frozen at the same time. What's wrong, Mama? I frantically asked. This is all your father's fault. Everything that is wrong with our family is because of him. Go tell him that you hate him. You have to say it to his face. I hate you, Father, she instructed me. Yes, okay, Mama. I will go and tell him to fix this, I assured her. No, she commands. You have to say these exact words. I hate you, Father. Say it to his face. You hear me? She continues. Yes, yes, Mama, I promise. I will go and talk to him right now. I reassure her. Look me in the eyes. Tell me exactly what you're going to say to him. She commands again. Mm, uh, I will say, I hate you, Father. I responded. Good girl, she says as she crumbles down in her pool of tears. I run to the living room and see my father sitting in front of the TV watching the news. I speak with such a low voice, almost like a whisper. Daddy, I'm sorry that I'm still awake past my bedtime. Please don't be mad at me. But I couldn't sleep because I could hear Mommy crying really, really badly. I'm worried about her. She's curled up in a dark corner in her bedroom. Something is awfully wrong with her. She seems paralyzed. Can you please make this stop? I'm so scared. Please, Daddy, please make this stop. I beg him. He walks into the bedroom, picks my mom up from the dark corner, and gently puts her in bed and tucks her in. Go back to bed. You have school early in the morning, he instructs me. Mother ended up leaving us in Riyadh a few days after that night and went back to Yemen. This was the first time that my parents separated. Throughout their marriage, they separated 3 times and got back together twice. Eventually, they did end up divorced. I woke up one day early in the morning to get ready to go to school, and I noticed that my mother was gone. Where's Mom? I asked Father. She left. She took your little sister Manal and went back home to Yemen, he responded. She left us alone? I start crying. I was shocked and confused. I knew they fought and argued, but that was our normal. I felt abandoned. She didn't even say goodbye. Why did she only take Manal? That's not fair. Why didn't she take me and Maysoon with her? Why did she leave us alone? I kept crying. Remember how she was suffering from loneliness and had only one friend in the entire country of Saudi Arabia? He explained. My coworker's wife, remember her? They hit it off recently and hung out almost every day. But the couple also had marital problems and ended up getting a divorce. Your mother couldn't bear the idea of being lonely and friendless again. She missed her sisters and friends back home in Yemen. Now go get ready for school. You're going to be late. My mother's only friend abruptly left Riyadh without saying goodbye. 1 week later, my mother did the same to her two daughters. Although our bodies were relieved from the daily beating and our minds got a break from the turmoil and violence, my sister and I were completely devastated. It was classic Stockholm Syndrome. We missed our mother terribly. He would allow us to make that very expensive long distance phone call to her once a week for about 5 minutes. The home landline had a secret code that he created that could prevent us from dialing international phone numbers. I watched him open his wallet, take out a small piece of paper, and dial that secret code before dialing my mother's phone number. Maysoon and I waited until he was in the shower one day and we found his wallet sitting on the top of his bed. As she was guarding the bathroom door, I opened the wallet and memorized the code. We would then secretly call our mother almost every day behind his back. And all she did was poison our head with how bad of a man he is. And we soaked it all in our little undeveloped brains with zero filter. We blamed our father for her leaving us and would barely talk to him. It was us against him. We would never stay with him in the family room. We had our own TV room where we lost ourselves in our favorite American sitcoms, Full House, Elf, and The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. We lived in our own little bubble. This was about the time when I began to develop dissociation, a coping mechanism, daydreaming and losing myself in movies, TV shows, and songs. I created a fantasy world in my mind where my hair was long, all the way down to my waist, because my mother would never let me grow my hair long. She would cut my hair herself. I had the most hideous short bowl haircut my entire childhood. She said it was easier for her to manage and clean up. In this fantasy world that I created, I would see all the details. I was living in San Francisco and I was older in high school, and John Stamos was in love with me. I would visualize with meticulous details my outfits, my socks, my shoes, and my jewelry, the conversations that I would have with my friends, the giggling, dancing, and all the fun. My reality and what was in front of me was too painful to experience. So I escaped and trained my mind to travel to more pleasant places. My father woke up each morning, made us breakfast, and packed our lunch boxes with sandwiches and snacks. Then he would drive us to school and pick us up at the end of the day. He would come home from the embassy, take off his fancy suit and tie, and put on an apron and start cooking for us. He didn't make us clean the house like she did. He would help me with my homework, which I dreaded because I had bad grades at school. He would sit only with me and not Maysoon. We would study for the longest hours, him teaching me math, science, and helping me write essays. I was so checked out. All I wanted to do was watch TV and fantasize about a better life. He would take us to the park and take us to friends' houses so we could play and socialize. If I would get sick, he would take me to the doctor. Even when my mother was still around, it was always him that had the alarm clock set to remind him to give me my medicine. It was him my entire school life, never even once my mother, that woke up each morning and made breakfast for us while she slept until noon. He was the one that packed our lunch boxes every day. Before there was a GPS, he would drive us around neighborhoods for hours until we found my friend's house so I could go to that birthday party or sleepover. But he didn't stand a chance. We were on Mom's side, and no matter what he said or did, not only did we not appreciate him, but we resented him. According to the American Psychiatric Association, APA, Stockholm Syndrome is when a victim forms positive feelings towards the person hurting or controlling them. It's often seen in hostage or abuse situations, where the victim may start to feel sympathy for the abuser and even defend them. Psychologist Melissa Goldberg-Mintz explains that it can feel less scary to see your abuser as someone you understand rather than someone evil. Another expert, Dr. Noel Hunter, adds that this is especially common in situations where the abuser is also someone the victim depends on, like a parent or caregiver. The victim can't escape, so they may start to believe the abuse is their fault and try to please the abuser to stay safe. In some cases, the stronger the bond with the abuser, the less harm the victim may face. So the mind creates this connection as a way to survive. This was an excerpt from my upcoming memoir. Stay tuned for more. P.S. My memoir is complete and has been just sitting there in my laptop for months, staring at me like, now what? So if you know a publisher or can miraculously slip it into Oprah or Reese's, I'll owe you yoga classes for life. Please subscribe completely free to receive the next chapter.